Hey there, it's Olivia Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm here to give you a big old book haul the way I always do on this channel. So I'm here to show you some of my sparkling new books, and without further ado, let's get right down to them. The first book I have to show you is actually a set of books, and that is the stunning deluxe editions of The Hunger Games. We have here The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, Mockingjay, and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Now, this is actually a very lovely and very late birthday gift from my mother, who pre-ordered them for my birthday back in January, but this second printing of them released in June, and so they literally just came in my door a couple weeks ago. So I remember when this first came out and I saw everybody was getting them and I thought, I don't want those. I have my old ones. I don't have any notion or want to read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I don't need hardbacks that cost that much. And then everybody who ordered it had it arrive and I was like, that's stunning. I do want it. I do want it. And then they sold out very quickly after that, so I never got the chance to get it in the first run, and when I heard they were doing a second run I was like, that's it, I'm gonna get it now. I'm gonna get it because I do love The Hunger Games. I have reread all of them except Mockingjay. I always avoid that one because I don't like it, but I think Catching Fire is one of the best sequels I've ever read. It's my favourite in the series. I adore The Hunger Games. I've also reread that and I think it's genius. Upon rereading it, I liked it more than I read it the first time. I do need to reread Mockingjay at some point, but I didn't like it the first time I read it, and I never ever wanted to read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. After seeing the film, I still don't particularly want to read this book, but I don't own books to never intend to read them, so it came with a set. I'm gonna have to read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Let's hope I like it more than Mockingjay. So Waypoint Books is an online bookshop that's run by Hannah from Ladette M, and it has a great collection of books on it for you to buy if you want to, and she was doing a hardback sale, so I decided to get myself some hardbacks that were almost 50% off, and I struggled to buy myself shining new hardback novellas because they are so short. But you should definitely be like checked out and following Waypoint Books on all of their socials, because every now and again she does amazing sales, and I picked up 2 Kingfisher books during that sale. One of them is What Feasts at Night, which is the sequel to What Moves the Dead, and I really liked What Moves the Dead, which I best describe as Gothic, horror, some things not quite right in this house story, and this is the sequel, Feast at Night. And then we've got Thornhedge by Kingfisher, which is one of their fantasy retelling short stories. I believe this might be the Rapunzel one, but I have never read any fantasy from Kingfisher, so I think a short story collection might be a fantastic place to start. Very happy I got these from Waypoint Books. These are books that I've accumulated across June and the beginning of July, and June is Pride Month, so at work they did a Pride Month book giveaway, and one of the books that I got from that was One Last Stop by McQuiston. One Last Stop is set on the subway in the US, where somebody gets on and meets this other girl who is really cute and really attractive, but turns out this girl is from another time, and I think they are flitting through time as they go through the subway stops. That's what I understand from the synopsis, but the main reason I wanted to read this one actually is because I read I Kissed Shara Wheeler by McQuiston a while ago, and I thought it was a very, very good young adult contemporary romance that was queer and lovely, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I've been meaning to read more McQuiston since then. I regularly go and donate books to my local charity shop, and every now and again when I'm donating books to my charity shop I pick up books. So I saw Night Walks by Charles Dickens, which is like a little collection of essays that he's written based on things that he's seen during his night walks or contemplations that Dickens had during his night walks, because Charles Dickens is an insomniac and he was someone who just walked around at night when he couldn't sleep. I am a fellow insomniac. I do think it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts. I've read quite a lot of Dickens now. I just keep reading them and I just keep having a good enough time reading them. I'm curious to see what this will be like. Soldier Sailor by Claire Kirby. I was really glad that I found this in a secondhand shop because it's one I was quite unsure of. I know it was on the Woman's Prize either long list or short list, and it was considered to be quite a lot of people's favourites. I know it's about something that's very hard hitting because people say it's a very emotional one and it's working through something that's a really difficult emotion to process. I don't quite know what it is anymore. even though I've watched so many reviews on it, but I'll find out for myself when I read it. The next stack of books here makes me so happy. It's all Sarah Simone books. So basically I'm doing a sponsored video with the publisher for Sarah Simone. So they sent me a couple of her books, which includes some of the books of hers that I have read but don't own yet. And that one in particular, there were lots of doubles, but one of them was American King by Sarah Simone. This is the final book in the new Camelot trilogy. I owned book 1 and book 2, but I didn't own book 3, and now I have book 3. So I own the whole series, which is just fantastic because I know it's a series that I've reread many, many times. I've actually reread it multiple times this year already, even though I don't talk about my rereads of Sarah Simone in my recent reads wrap-ups. Otherwise my whole recent reads wrap-ups would be full of Sarah Simone books, and nobody wants that. We want to hear about different books. So I haven't been saying every time I've reread this book. I've actually reread this one countless times already. I love it. I adore it. It's my whole heart, and now it's on my shelves too, so it makes me so happy. So happy. And one of the books that they sent me, along with all of those other ones that I've read before, was this one. This is Honeycut by Sarah Simone. It's the sequel to Salt Kiss that I have been waiting for only a couple months because I read Salt Kiss for the first time only a couple months ago. Since then I've also already reread Salt Kiss and its prequel Salt in the Wound multiple times while I waited patiently for Honeycut to be out. So thank you so much to the publisher for sending this to me because I am unbelievably excited to get to this. The first book kind of ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, which is why I needed this in my life. And the series is a Tristram and Isolde retelling, but it's set in a sex club and it's steamy, BDSM, queer, and in the future, in this book maybe, polyamorous. And I am eating it up. I love the characters, I love what it's doing with the setting, I love how it's talking about desires and love and romance, but also dedication and like arranged marriage. And oh, it's just so good. So good. And then last but not least, I did a book swap with Hannah from Ladette M because I was unhauling a couple of books and she took them, and in return I got a copy of Merry Little Meet Cute, which is by Sarah Simone and Julie Murphy. I've never read anything by Julie Murphy before, but I'm very intrigued by this because it's Sarah Simone's Christmas series, and I know they co-write it, but I mostly hit it because Sarah Simone has contributed to this. It's a Christmassy series from what I understand, and it's a romance between an ex-boy band member and a porn star, if I have everything correct. Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy this one. I'm trying my best to hold off on reading it and waiting until Christmas. We'll see if I last that long, but I think this could be a very nice, steamy romance book to keep me warm on a cold Christmassy night. I just love Sarah Simone so much. Alright, we're going to move on to other books. So again, when I was donating books, I've been donating quite a few books lately. I've also been doing it in rounds because if you donate too many books at once, they're not that happy. But they love it when I do it frequently in stages. So I went one time and I saw a copy of Untamed Shore by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia and I decided to pick it up. I've been collecting Sylvia Moreno-Garcia's books ever since I loved Mexican Gothic, and I gave that book 5 stars. It was fantastic. So I've just been collecting more and more of her gothic-y horror books. Well, I have no idea what this one is about in particular. I am looking forward to reading it because I know I like Sylvia's writing style and I know it's going to be a bit dark and mysterious and delicious. As I said, unhauling books, so I did a book swap with Emily from A Short Book Lover over on Instagram. She's a lovely friend to have, and she actually recommended to me and then also got me as part of the book swap a copy of So Let Them Burn by Kamilah Cole, and this is a young adult fantasy book that is Jamaican inspired fantasy with dragons. That's all Emily had to tell me to sell me. I've been interested in reading more and more dragon books. I've actually read quite a few this year, which makes me quite happy, but a Jamaican inspired fantasy one is something new to me and I haven't really heard anything negative about this book. I've just seen people really enjoying it, so I'm looking forward to trying it for myself. I also was sent a copy by the publisher of Sleep Like Death by Kalynn Bayron, a finished copy. I have hauled in the proof before, and this is a dark Snow White retelling by the author who did You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. I really enjoyed You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight, so I'm very much looking forward to reading more from this author, and that's why I've got this one here. I was also sent a copy of The Maid and the Crocodile by Jordan Ifueko. This is Jordan Ifueko's next book after the Raybearer series, and in this one you're following a girl who has facial differences and she also has a limp, I believe, or some other physical disability, and so she is trying to get a job as a maid and just blend in, but in the process of doing so she ends up bonded to a crocodile like god, and so now she's suddenly bonded to this god accidentally, unintentionally, while trying to get a job as a maid so that she can fly under the radar. And at a certain point she confesses her power to this god, which is that she is a curse eater. There's a lot going on here, but I really like that we're getting some disability representation in our fantasy books lately, and this is a young adult fantasy that I'm very much looking forward to reading. It just sounds like it's got a very intriguing premise. Yes, this was another book that I got in the hardback sale from Waypoint Books, and that's Horrid by Katrina, Leno. Now, I once knew what this book was about, but I don't know anything about it now. I just remember that Hannah from Perusing Hannah really enjoyed this horror book. It's got a gorgeous cover, and I think it's a fairy tale-esque writing style horror book, and I just remember people really loving it at the time. So it's been on my TBR wishlist for a while, and now I've got it. I don't exactly remember anything about it other than I'm excited to try it. Oh yes, I'm very, very excited for this one. So this is called The Blonde Dies First by Joelle, Wellington, and it's kind of riffing off the horror films that you know. So you're following this group of teenagers who end up playing with an Ouija board, as you do, and there's a monster that's unleashed and it starts to kill the people in this story, or from the group that were playing with the Ouija board. But the monster seems to be following the standard film rules of you kill the blonde first, then the black guy, then this person. So now that they know kind of the pattern that the monster is following, they are going to try and flip the script on the monster and use their knowledge to their advantage to defeat the monster. And I've been a big fan of these kind of meta horror films. This is giving me The Blackening vibes, which I really, really enjoyed and think is a hilarious horror comedy film. So I hope it will channel all of that and more, as well as just be one of those really fun horror books. Very excited about this one. This is The Dead Friend Project by Joanna Wallace. I read Joanna Wallace's debut crime novel last December and had a very good time with that. It's called You'd Look Better as a Ghost. So I'm intrigued to see what this second book of hers is going to give us. So this one is about Beth, and things are not going very well for her since her best friend died. She's really struggling, everything seems to be falling apart, she doesn't feel like a good mum, and then when her best friend, like who's been hit by a car, she discovers that her best friend left her toddler alone at home during the school run. Now she knows her best friend, she knows her best friend would never do that, so she starts to think something more sinister happened to Charlotte, and she starts digging into it. So again, this is going to be dealing with possibly murder, but also grief and humour, and I think those are three things that Joanna Wallace balanced very, very well in her first novel, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do with this different story as well. I'm not going to talk about this one for very long because it's The Unrelenting Earth by Kritika H. Rao, and this is the second book to The Surviving Sky, which I have not read yet, which has been described as fantasy that's got earth magic elements to it, following a married couple in this world where one of them has the magic and one of them doesn't have the magic, and it's been compared to N.K. Jemisin. I've seen that my sister really, really loved this first one, and a lot of people whose reviews I trust really enjoyed this, so I'm looking forward to reading the series, but I have not read the first one, so I cannot read the synopsis of this one for you. Also I was so excited to receive this proof of A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. So I read earlier this year A Fragile Enchantment by Alison Saft, which I described as magical Bridgerton, and it was fantastic, it was fun, and everything I wanted at that point in time. I really, really enjoyed that novel. Another book from her, and this is a bit more of a dark Gothic tale, but still within the young adult genre. And on the back here it says, a folklorist with a quick temper is on an expedition with 6 nobles in search of a magical spring of untold power, and it's about what goes down on this journey. I'm sure there's going to be a love interest thrown in there, and I'm looking forward to Alison Saft's whimsical and magical writing style with an engaging storyline. Thank you to the publishers for sending me a copy of A Good Life by Virginie Grimaldi. This is translated from French French, I believe, and it's about two sisters who are the best of friends, but they've had an unexplained silence for 5 years, and they become reunited when someone beloved between them dies, and they have to go back to the house to sort through the things and sort out who gets what and donate stuff. But when they're reunited, they kind of rekindle their friendship as well as their sisterhood, and they need to talk through and unpack some of the things that have happened and the long buried emotions to find their way back to each other. And I particularly enjoy reading books that focus on friendship, but also this balance between friendship and sisterhood sounds like it's going to be something very interesting, and it's also dealing with grief, which is one of those topics that I'm very drawn to reading about. So I'm curious to see what this book is going to give me in terms of some of the themes that I particularly enjoy reading about myself. Oh yes, this book sounds great. So this is The Hunter's Gambit by Cécile Perlot, and this is a vampire book. And you know how I feel about vampire books. I absolutely adore them. I eat them for breakfast. So this is about someone who is a vampire hunter. She's been a vampire hunter for years, but when she gets kidnapped by a coven of vampires, she gets dragged into their world and is cast as the vampire queen, where she will rule for 3 days before they merrily eat their newly crowned queen. So she has 3 days to try and find her escape, find her way out, and she might have to employ or seduce someone into helping her. And that's what the story is all about. I think I'm gonna have a great time. I just love vampire books, and the fact that there's a time limit where she needs to try her best to escape by, she's probably gonna fall for a vampire along the way. That just sounds like a recipe for a good time. So we've got 3 books here, which are all by the same author. They're all by Andrew Joseph White, and they are very different books. So we've got these 2, which I'm going to talk about first. One of them is Hell Followed With Us, and the other one is The Spirit Bares Its Teeth. Now, if I am correct, Hell Followed With Us is the one that's got more like young adult horror elements, and then The Spirit Bares Its Teeth is the one that has young adult historical mystery elements. I could be getting the 2 confused, but I think that's the order of them, and I've heard very good things about both of these and the way that Andrew Joseph White writes. I've heard he manages to do very good world building, he's always got queer characters as well, and that it's just like fascinating fun stories each and every time. So I'm looking forward to delving into these ones. But they also sent a proof copy of his upcoming book, which is called Compound Fracture, and this one has a trans main character who kind of sneaks off to unveil the sheriff as someone who's very hateful after coming out in the town. And this one sounds like it's going to really play on or deal with or discuss and unpick and explore the queer themes even more in this one than in the other 2. And it's a bit more of a contemporary one, a bit more of a real world setting with some mystery elements to it as well. So I'm very much looking forward to all 3 of these books. They absolutely sound fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Andrew Joseph White has to bring to the table for me. This sounds like it should be a reading vlog, so let me know if it should be an Andrew Joseph White reading vlog. This is another book that I got from the Pride giveaway. I got from work. I got myself one fiction, and I also got myself one non-fiction, which is A Trans Man Walks into a Gay Bar by Harry Nicholas. Now I remember seeing Kit from Kit the Reader reading this on Instagram and really liking it, and it's his non-fiction memoir about coming out as queer and coming out as trans and some of their experiences coming out as trans.
A few moments later.
So the first one we have here is actually from Hannah's from Ladette M's Unhaul. She is my really good friend, and we did a little bit of a book swap so I could get this stunning special edition of Godkiller by Hannah Kana, which I have actually already read now, and I really enjoyed it. Look at those frayed edges. And I'm going to be continuing the series. It has gorgeous end papers, as you can see, and it looks lovely. So even though I already own this book, when she was unhauling it and was agreeing to send it to me, I said yes, and I'll get you a book from your wish list, of course, because it's so special and beautiful. And I'm looking forward to getting the second book in this series at some point. But it was a really good fantasy book with disability in it. There's a disabled main character, she uses a prosthetic limb, and yeah, really fun. So now I have this copy of it, Then I have to say a big thank you to the publisher for sending me a copy of The Seventh Veil of Salome by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia. This is her latest book. So it's a fiction book about this big film where Salome is going to be cast, and all of the big film stars want to play this character. But when the director casts a Mexican actress that nobody knows, everybody is very jealous as she's thrust into the limelight, and nobody is as jealous as Nancy, who is a actor whose kind of career has stalled, and she decides that she deserves everything that this new Mexican woman is getting, and so she will stop at nothing to get what she thinks she deserves. And that is what is the basis of this novel, and so I'm very curious to see what Sylvia Moreno-Garcia has up for us in this one. And also from the same publisher, recently Silver Nitrate by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia as well came out in paperback, and this one is about a sound editor who feels like she's been overlooked for lots of jobs, and her best friend, and they are offered this job by a filmmaker who says if they help him finish this cursed film, he will make them into everything that they've ever dreamed they want to be. But he says this film is cursed and it was started by a Nazi occultist. So that's the kind of spooky, creepy element to this one. And again, in some ways these are both about film, and they both sound like they could have unsettling elements to them. Also a big thank you to Penguin Classics for sending me copies of the two newest Baldwin Penguin Classics that they've added to their collection. This was to celebrate James Baldwin's centenary, so 100 years, and the first one they're publishing is Going to Meet the Man by James Baldwin, and this is a collection of 8 short stories. And then the other one is No Name in the Street by James Baldwin. This one is part memoir, part essay collection, part meditations, as James Baldwin talks about what has shaped him into the man that he is, with his beliefs and consciousness and awareness on certain subjects. So both of these sound like they're going to be really, really good, and James Baldwin is a fantastic writer. I've mostly read his non-fiction and not necessarily his fiction before, but it's a really nice opportunity to try out his fiction in short stories. And they were also kind enough to send me a copy of the matching edition of Giovanni's Room, which I'm not going to haul here because I already had a copy of Giovanni's Room. I've also had quite a lot of friends stay with me recently, and with my friend Marilyn we went to 3 bookshops, and I think I got something in every single one. We went to 4 actually, so I got something in all 3 out of the 4 bookshops. So the first one was in Judd Books, and Judd Books have really good prices, and I picked up Parable of the Talents by Octavia E. Butler for only £4, which is such a steal. And this is the second book to The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, which I have already read and enjoyed, and that one is one of her grittier, dystopian, really emotionally brutal reads, and I really liked that one because I did not see the directions that the plot was going to go in coming, and I also hadn't really read a dystopian book with a black character at the heart of it, so it's amazing that she'd already done that by the point of which she wrote that book. But I really would love to know if you've got any other dystopian recommendations with black characters front and centre as main leads, because I find them very hard to find. One of the things that I've done recently is attend Katie Lunsden's book launch for her second book, so congratulations to Katie. And her second book is The Trouble with Miss Montgomery Hearst, and it's a historical fiction book about a wedding season where our main character is of age to be married. She's quite old now, and her father is determined to marry her off to a particularly eligible bachelor when she discovers that he's already engaged to somebody else. He's going to be marrying a widow with multiple children, and everybody's shocked and scandalized that that is the choice that he has made when they thought that they would be an inseparable pair. Meanwhile, she has no intentions of marrying whatsoever, and it sounds like there's going to be a lot of scandal and drama in this one, and I've been watching Bridgerton like everybody else and having a very good time, so I'm expecting something similar from this historical fiction read. I am also a subscription box person. I only have one subscription box that I'm subscribed to, and that is Evernight, which is a branch of Illumicrate, and they do horror books. So I got my book, and that is The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim, which I've actually already talked about in my hauls because I hauled this book in proof, but I am going to be passing that proof along to somebody else because now I have this beautiful, or scary I should say, finished copy with lots of eyeballs on it, lots of eyes, and it has really lovely end papers to it. The naked hardback continues on the theme of eyeballs. Can you tell that eyeballs are going to be relevant to this story? And if you go to the back, there's also more from the end papers. So yes, this is about a young woman who is talking about her mother who gets engaged to somebody who she thinks is exoticizing her, and she has heard from her mother that if you eat fish eyes it will help you in some way or form, and she becomes addicted to eating eyes. So yeah, the eyes are the best part. Curious to see what that's going to bring me. I won a giveaway over on Instagram, and one of the books that I won was Welcome to the Hunamdong Bookshop by Huang Bayron, and I have not read this book. I know nothing about it, but I do know that our main character opens a bookshop, and I've been enjoying the like cozy sweet books about opening a bookshop or opening a coffee shop, legend and lattes, but also things like Before the Coffee Gets Cold. So I know that this is just a sweet story about a woman who decides to open a bookshop and what her customers are like. So it just sounds really lovely. I saw that Hannah was unhauling Self-Made Boys by Anna Marie McLemore, and I decided to pick it up. It's a gay retelling of The Great Gatsby. Voila! That's all I needed to know that I was going to read this one. And I actually discovered it's part of a whole series where various authors do remixes of classic tales, which sounds fantastic to me. So if I enjoy this one, I'm going to pick up a few more, and I really hope I do, because I don't like the original Great Gatsby stories, and I think a way that I could like it is if it was gay, and this is what that does. So from her unhaul I picked up A Venom Dark and Sweet by Judy I. Lynn. It's because she was sending these to me for free, and so while I have the first book in this series, I can't remember what it's called, Magic Steeped in Poison, I haven't read it yet, but while the sequel was going I thought, yeah, I'm gonna take it. And that's a similar story for the next two books, because I have The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch, but I haven't read it yet, and yet from Hannah's unhaul I still took Red Seas Under Skies and also The Republic of Thieves. I don't even know which order they go in, but I just decided to get them because they were free and she was unhauling them. So if I like the first one, I can just read my way through the entirety of the trilogy. So there you have it. Those are the books that I've recently hauled in. Please let me know in the comment section down below, what have you recently bought, received, borrowed or acquired. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!